At the time I'm recording this, it's been only 2 nights since the great performer David Bowie passed away. And yet Bowie lives on. His songs, his albums, and his name will not soon be forgotten on this earth. Eventually, of course, they will fade from public consciousness, but his contributions to music and to performance will continue to live on for even longer. So I think in at least that sense, David Bowie has achieved what many of us can only dream of. It's the quest of humanity to find what we could call immortality. He has, through his talent and charisma and just straight up strangeness, inserted himself into the public consciousness so much that he can continue to exist even after his physical being is gone. Bowie himself had a complex relationship with fame, as you can hear illustrated in his song Fame. But I think it's safe to say that the drive for some sort of immortality was a great motivator in his life. Now, I'm not going to claim to divine the mind of David Bowie, but any sort of motivation like the drive to create things, or the need to do something strange that has never been done, or the desire to change the world in some way, all stems from this desire for immortality. Perhaps this drive for immortality, this not wanting to die, is the strongest human motivational factor. Perhaps it is what makes us human. You see it everywhere. People do all sorts of things to make sure that they don't die somehow. They build huge monuments to themselves or to others. They subscribe to religions. They create things tangible and intangible that will live on after them. They make some sort of impact in the world that will assure that their memory exists, or that their soul continues to exist in some afterlife or in some reincarnation cycle. Virtually every society has something that they do when a member dies that assures that their dead will not be forgotten. Proper burial practices or cremation practices are said to make sure that the soul goes to the proper place and doesn't remain in this world to be tormented. Sometimes memorials are made in some way. Sometimes that memorial comes in the form of a foundation or of a school or some impact on the world that will live forever, in theory. The discovery that Neanderthals buried their dead is considered one of the greatest discoveries in the history of anthropology, because to us that means that the Neanderthals were human. It's not known whether other species can comprehend their mortality. It's still an open debate in psychology. Obviously, no species wants to die. Just from an evolutionary standpoint, it doesn't make sense. But clearly no species besides humanity puts such an emphasis on the concept of death. But I think it's interesting because if we treated death as purely a biological fact, that all of a sudden all of your consciousness was gone and you don't feel anything, it really isn't that scary. It's something that happens and nothing will happen to you afterwards. I think the deeper fear is that we don't want to be forgotten. We spend our lives doing all sorts of things, getting an education, a career, starting a family. And what's the point if it all disappears after 100 or so years? We want to know that in some way all of our individual progress will be preserved. That we didn't live our lives in vain and for nothing. But eventually, and I do mean eventually, perhaps after millions or billions of years, everything will be gone. Everything that you've put on this earth and into the universe will eventually not exist any longer. Every material and oral record that your life ever happened will have vanished. So then comes the question of the afterlife or reincarnation or the immortality of the soul. But if it really is the case that there is nothing left of your life in the universe, why did you exist in the universe in the first place? In the 19th century, there arose a philosophy called absurdism. And absurdism is based on the contradiction of ideas that human life has no inherent purpose and that people will continue to try to find it. And that's why we really do anything. We're trying to assign our lives some sort of meaning. Because I'm not sure our minds could comprehend ourselves if we didn't. That's why people write books, or paint paintings, or make music. That's why people follow religions or certain philosophies. That's why I'm making this video right now. I want to make some impact in the world that will last after I, physically, am gone. Perhaps it's not because we're the only animals who understand mortality. Perhaps it's precisely because we don't. We don't know what death really means. And we don't know what, if anything, happens when we die. And that's really terrifying. But the dragging of our feet to delay our inevitable demise is what has built humanity throughout its short time here on this earth.